most famous African leader worldwide in the recent days, that leader could possibly be President Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso. He is the youngest president in Africa, and now they are saying he is the most fearless president. They have even given him a name, Putin of Africa. Ibrahim Traore has been making headlines recently on all the social media platforms because of the reasons that I am going to mention on this video. Before I even continue, who is this fearless leader popularly known as Ibrahim Traore? How did he become a president of Burkina Faso? Why is he giving the Western countries sleepless nights? It's not a long story, please let me explain. Also, about 15 soldiers announced on Friday, September 30th, 2022 evening on the national radio and television set that Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba had been removed from his post as president of the transition. 8 months after the previous coup, Captain Ibrahim Traore succeeds the Lieutenant Colonel at the head of Burkina Faso. Should this be seen as a sign of fate? At 34, Ibrahim Traore became Burkina Faso's new strongman, at the same age as Thomas Sankara. The latter, in the mid-1980s, had taken over what was then Upper Volta after a military putsch. Captain Ibrahim Traore is now positioned at the head of Burkina Faso. However, he made it known in an interview with RFI that he asserts that he is only there to expedite current affairs. Enrolled at the University of Ouagadougou in 2006, Ibrahim Traore graduated top of his class with his degree in fundamental and applied geology. 3 years later, he then decided to join the Burkinabe Armed Forces. It was in 2010 that he was recruited for the 12th promotion of the Georges Namoano Military Academy in Po, which houses the Commando Training Center. After 2 years of training, the young second lieutenant was assigned to the artillery regiment based in Kaya in the Center-North region. According to his relatives, he regularly visited his men on a security mission. Unlike his predecessor, the captain did not go through the military prytanée. It makes a big difference, explains a source close to the army. He is a rank soldier who has risen through the ranks. That is the short story of Ibrahim. And now you might be asking yourselves on what is making Ibrahim Traore famous. The leader of the military junta in Burkina Faso, who is the country's transitional president, Traore, sent a strong message to African leaders during the Russia-Africa summit. In a speech likened to that of former President Thomas Sankara, the military leader urged African presidents to work for their population and not for imperialists. My generation of Africans said I should ask this question: why is Africa rich in natural resources yet the people live in abject poverty? He continued that now, Africans will no longer cross seas to die, but will hold leaders responsible for their misery. It is because of poverty that they are forced to cross the ocean to try to reach Europe. They die in the ocean. But in the near future, they won't be going to the ocean because they'll be coming to our palaces in search of their daily bread. He called out European countries for their double standards, asking why they always describe African protesters and those who have carried arms to defend their nation as terrorists. It's disappointing because in Europe, when people take up arms to defend their homeland, we call them patriots. Our grandfathers were deported to save Europe. It wasn't with their consent, it was against their will. But on their return, we remember well that at Thiaroye, when they wanted to claim their basic rights, they were massacred. It doesn't matter. When we, the people, decide to defend ourselves, we are called militias. But that's not the problem, he said in a statement. The 35-year-old who took over power on September 20th, 2022, said some African heads of state operate like the Western world, calling those fighting for their freedom militias. The problem is to see African heads of state who bring nothing to these peoples who are fighting, but who sing the same songs as the imperialists, calling us militias, calling us men who don't respect human rights. What human rights are we talking about? We take offense at this, and it's shameful. We African heads of state must stop behaving like puppets who dance every time the imperialists pull the strings. End of quote. I don't know what you think about Traore leadership,